For Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and it's an absolute pleasure to rise and speak on this government business program and procedural motion at the moment, and to follow on from the member for Albert Park for her very eloquent and fantastic contribution around the need to progress with this bill. And in doing so, let's just set the facts on the table here very straight from the outset. We are the Victorian Labor Government that won the election in November 2022. We have a mandate to deliver on what we promised the Victorian people at the election. And inherent in that is our commitment, and all the commitments we've delivered since 2014, since 2018, and now thereafter 2022. And part of those reforms, those landmark reforms, which the member just earlier spoke about, in opposition of actually, one of those reforms was in relation to medicinal cannabis, a landmark reform that we introduced here in this state, which we should be so proud of, which people have been calling on for so long. This is not a new debate. This is not a new issue. This is not something that's just come up, as you allege, for a 13-day period. This is something that the community has been calling for a very, very long time. And if you're telling me, Deputy Speaker, if the opposition is claiming that this is news to them, that we as a state government are advocating in relation to these issues, then you better go stop reading the Herald Sun. You better start actually reading factual information.
The member of Gippsland South on a point of order that
I ask you, Deputy Speaker, to bring the member back to debating the question at hand and remind him that the government actually opposed this type of legislation at the start of the year.
Order. Point of order and not an opportunity for debate. Member for Gippsland South. The member will come back to the procedural motion, but I also counsel him to not reflect on the chair by using the word you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Look, the point that I was trying to make simply was that generally in relation to this debate, in relation to this issue, it's not a new issue. It's not a new debate. It's something we've actually been working on for some time. And this builds on previous reforms around medicinal health policy, which people in the community have been calling for a long time. And we delivered on that commitment. And let's look at the facts, not the hyperbole and not the false narrative being peddled by those opposite, but look at the facts. Since we introduced those reforms, I'll refer the opposition to the media release that was put out earlier this week in relation to this bill, which again was foreshadowing that this bill was coming into the parliament. So it's technically more than 14 days, that this was on the agenda, on Parliament's agenda. Since we introduced those medicinal cannabis reforms, we've seen an increase of more than 700% in the number of patients prescribed with medicinal cannabis across Victoria. And all we're trying to do with this bill is reflect the fact that those 700% increase in patients that are accessing medicinal cannabis also drive on the roads. They're also commuters. And following on from that reform, there has been ongoing advocacy from the community, including in my community. I've been approached by many residents in my community who access medicinal cannabis across Pascoe Vale, Coburg and Brunswick West, and have been calling for some sort of provision in the legislation to be made to accommodate their medicinal needs as part of their commute. And that is what this bill is seeking to do. It's actually even more generous than that in terms of an opposition perspective. It's a trial. We're talking about a trial. So when the opposition turn around and they start talking about we need to consult, we need to go talk to more people, we need to...
Point of order, member for...
Point of order. This is a very narrow procedural debate. It seems that the member on his feet has now started to debate the bill and seems to know a lot more about it than most others.
Thank you. The member was just making it relevant to the adjournment, but yes, I counsel all members to stick to the procedural motion of the question of the adjournment.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I mean, it's, in my humble opinion, the only thing narrow is the thinking of the opposition, not so much this reform here. But it is a trial we're talking about, and they're actually wanting to prevent the government opposing a bill that will introduce a trial, which will give ample time...
Member will resume his seat. The member for Brighton.
Deputy Speaker, with respect, I know the member is new. He doesn't understand clearly what's happening.
The point of order is...
on relevance, there is a question before the chair, and the member is debating another matter, which he's mistaken about as well.
The member for Pascoe had started to debate the bill. You must debate the adjournment.
13 days is not enough. And, you know, in 13 days, JFK solved the Cuban Missile
The member's
Crisis.
time has
That's all.
expired.
Yeah.
The member for Eildon to continue on the procedural matter.